Prajnanam Brahma, 3 Sanskrit words from the Aitareya Upanishad, composed in the 1st millennium BCE. Usually translated, consciousness is Brahman. Consciousness is the fundamental ground of all reality. In January 1931, at the age of 72, Max Planck, the physicist who introduced the quantum, said 9 words in an interview with the observer that arrive at the same boundary from another direction. I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative. 9 words and a problem. Because if consciousness is fundamental, then one of the deepest assumptions of modern thought is reversed. Matter is not primary. Mind is not merely a late product of chemistry. What makes this striking is that more than 2 millennia earlier, in one of the oldest philosophical traditions in human history, those 3 Sanskrit words had already arrived at a strikingly resonant position. Prajnanam Brahma. If consciousness is not a product of matter, but the ground in which matter appears, then the awareness reading these words right now is not a small function running inside a skull. It is what both of these investigations are pointing toward. This video maps what Planck found at the boundary of physics against what the Vedic tradition mapped from the other direction entirely. Before history, before physics, test something directly. Right now, before the equations, before the Upanishads, before any theory, notice that you are aware. Not what you are aware of, not thoughts, sounds, sensations, or this voice. Notice the fact that experience is occurring at all, the awareness in which those experiences appear. Rest there for a moment. Now ask something carefully. Can this awareness itself be observed as an object? Or is it the condition through which observation happens at all? Do not answer philosophically. Simply notice. The Aitareya Upanishad makes a radical claim about this awareness. Planck approaches a related boundary from another direction. Neither claim is proved by this observation alone, but both begin from the same undeniable fact. Awareness is present and cannot be removed from the act of knowing. So, how did Planck arrive at a position like this? Not through mysticism, not suddenly, through physics itself. Across decades of reflection on what physics had revealed about matter. At the beginning of the 20th century, Planck opened the quantum era by discovering that energy is not exchanged continuously, but in discrete packets, quanta. This shattered classical physics and initiated the quantum revolution. But his equations did not produce a philosophy of consciousness. That came later, through reflection on what the equations implied. The dominant scientific model explains consciousness as emerging from physical processes, from brains, neurons, biological complexity. Matter is primary, consciousness is derived. Planck became dissatisfied with that picture, not through religion or mysticism, but through a philosophical interpretation of what modern physics had uncovered at its foundations. The deeper matter was investigated, the less it resembled the solid substance imagined by classical physics. Particles became difficult to picture as tiny self-existing objects. Matter appeared less like isolated solidity, and more like process, relation, underlying structure. He expressed this explicitly in his Florence lecture of 1944. There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particles of an atom to vibration. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter. This was not a theorem of quantum mechanics. It was Planck's philosophical conclusion. The physicist who introduced the quantum came to regard consciousness, conscious mind, as more fundamental than matter alone. Planck's conclusion raises an older question. If matter is not ultimately self-sufficient, then what is fundamental? The Aitareya Upanishad approaches that question from an entirely different direction. It preserves one of the four Mahavakyas, the foundational declarations of Vedic philosophy. Prajnanam Brahma. Prajnanam does not mean thought. It does not mean personality or the private stream of mental activity we usually call my mind. It refers to knowing awareness itself, the awareness prior to what is known, prior to the distinction between observer and observed. Brahman is not a deity standing apart from the universe. In the Upanishadic framework, Brahman is the fundamental reality from which all apparent existence arises. Prajnanam Brahma. Consciousness is the ground, not secondary, not derivative, primary. This is a stronger and more metaphysically precise claim than Planck's own language. Planck spoke of conscious mind as fundamental to matter. The Upanishadic formulation identifies awareness itself with ultimate reality. Two investigations, different instruments, different civilizations, different millennia. Both arrive at the same philosophical boundary. Consciousness cannot be understood as merely secondary to matter. The Mandukya Upanishad adds a second dimension, and it is the more intimate one. One of the shortest texts in the tradition, 12 verses. Among the most philosophically precise, it contains a second of the four Mahavakyas. Ayam Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. Atman, the principle of awareness associated with individual experience, is not ultimately separate from Brahman. The consciousness through which experience appears is not isolated or self-enclosed, but continuous with ultimate reality itself. This does not mean the private ego is divine. The claim is subtler, that awareness, at its deepest level, is not fundamentally divided. Planck's language approaches a related boundary. We cannot get behind consciousness, not your consciousness, not mine, but consciousness as the condition of knowing it all. One precision distinction matters here, and the India audience will notice if it is missing. Planck's conscious and intelligent mind, the mind that stands behind matter, is closer to what Vedic thought calls Ishvara, the intelligent principle associated with manifest reality. Brahman, more strictly, is described as ultimate reality beyond all distinction, including the distinction between subject and object. This is a genuine philosophical difference, not a contradiction. Planck identifies a limit in materialist explanation. The Upanishads describe a more complete metaphysical vision. The convergence is real and precise. The characterization differs. Both positions are treated here with the accuracy their traditions intended. There is a third dimension to this convergence, and it may be the most important. In Where is Science Going?, published in 1932, Planck reflected on this directly. Science cannot solve the ultimate mystery of nature, and that is because, in the last analysis, we ourselves are part of nature, and therefore part of the mystery that we are trying to solve. The investigator is never completely outside what is being investigated. The Upanishads approach this from another direction. The seeker of Brahman is not separate from the reality being sought. Inquiry unfolds within awareness itself. Both confront the same difficulty. Can consciousness ever be treated as merely another object among objects? Planck encountered this as a boundary, the limit of what physics can reach from outside. The Upanishads mapped the territory beyond it, from the inside. The Upanishadic response was not argument alone, it was inquiry. So test this directly. Close your eyes if possible. Notice that you are aware. Do not describe what you are aware of. Notice the awareness through which experience appears. Ask gently, without trying to solve it. Can this awareness itself be located? Does it appear as an object, or as the condition through which objects are known? Do not answer philosophically, simply notice. Planck said, "We cannot get behind consciousness." The Aitareya Upanishad made a more radical claim. Prajnanam Brahma. Awareness is not just the condition of knowing, it is fundamental reality itself. Whether one accepts that conclusion or not, the inquiry begins in the same place. Awareness is present. Rest there. Let the breath return naturally. In 1931, the physicist who introduced the quantum gave an interview to The Observer. After decades investigating matter at its most fundamental level, he said, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness." More than 2 millennia earlier, among the earliest Upanishads of the Vedic tradition, another formulation appeared. Prajnanam Brahma. 2 investigations, different methods, different languages, different civilizations. Both confronted the same philosophical boundary: whether consciousness can be understood as merely secondary to matter. Planck approached that question through reflection on physics. The Upanishads approached it through contemplative inquiry. One identifies a limit in material explanation. The other develops a metaphysical vision beyond that limit. Whether one accepts their conclusions or not, the question remains: what is consciousness? A product of reality, or something more fundamental to how reality? Ancient wisdom, quantum mystery, direct knowing. This is quantum gnosis.